Welcome to the official Lakes International Comic Art Festival podcast. My name's Ian.
And my name's Nikki, bringing you the best in comics and graphic novels and updates from the festival.
Hello and welcome to the Lakes International Comic Art Festival podcast, episode 68. My name's Ian.
And I'm Nikki.
And we're back in 2020.
2020, we're late. And why are we late, Ian?
I wasn't going to say we're late because people who listen.
No, they will know.
Realised.
People will know we're late. And why were we late, Ian?
Well, we're late just because
Because you went to Warhammer.
No, because that was after anyway. We were late because we're lazy.
No, I'm not lazy. You are.
We didn't get the guest that's coming later. That was all. So luckily Pete stepped up and helped us out there. And then, we were just late. We were late. Okay, we were lazy. We were late.
We were not lazy. I mean, you might be.
Just a minute.
I'm not lazy.
Whoa.
I can't do it without you because I'm just the
Do
star.
nothing.
Shut up. I turn up.
You live
I'm
in the
not
same
dying
house.
this time, look. I'm better. La la.
So on today's episode, Mike is talking about the new released Vessels, issue 3.
Ooh.
Which I'll let him talk all about. Tom is reviewing John Tucker's The King, which we'll talk about.
Which is a pain because we read that
We
as
read
well.
that, yeah.
No, that's fine. Let him do it, it's fine.
To be fair, though, it'd be hard to talk without spoilers, so we'll let Tom
let him
do that.
Dig that hole.
And Pete is taking lead today.
Is he now?
He's taking lead.
Oh, he's sneaky.
He's got the interview segment.
Sneaky.
He's speaking to Sarah Harris and that individual called Tony Esmond
not
about
him.
the Hawk. I know. He keeps sneaking on the blooming show, doesn't he?
God, I've got to talk about him later as well.
Oh, God, you haven't? Yeah. Jeez. Tart. That's what it is, a comic tart.
Yeah, comic tart.
Anyway, he's talking about the Whore Chronicles, which we reviewed a short while back.
Short while back.
Short while back.
Short while back. We reviewed that one. Short while back.
You're teasing me like I'm Northern, yet you're doing a really Southern sort of accent.
Yeah, I was doing like a Cornish. No, not Cornish. A proper Bedfordshirean accent.
So your lot.
Yeah.
Weirdos.
We're not weirdos, just because we can count to 20 on our feet.
I was going to say.
Oh, no, you can't do that, can you? I have to think for a minute.
Because you're all mutated weirdos, is what you're basically saying.
Yes.
Yeah. Right, well then, let's review some books. I've got an announcement first.
Don't you dare click your fingers at me.
This is actually the first time we can announce a guest before...
They allowed us.
Basically, every time...
Did they say we're allowed to, or are you just doing it out?
No, we've been told we're allowed to.
Okay.
Every time it comes to guest announcement, it always happens just after we've recorded or way before, because all of the schedule, everything, and it just how it lands. And it's like, oh, come on, we want to do
So this was
an
the real
announcement.
reason we were late.
Yes, that's it.
Yes.
TikTok. So we're going to announce a guest that's coming to the Lakes International Comic Art Festival 2020. Exclusive by a day or two. Exclusive. Strangers in Paradise creator Terry Moore is a special guest for this year's festival.
Woo!
He's creator of Strangers in Paradise, Rachel Rising, Motor Girl, Echo, and 5 Years. He's an indie powerhouse, is what they've titled him here.
That's a title to have, isn't it?
It is.
Indie powerhouse.
Strangers in Paradise is a compelling love story between three unlikely friends who find themselves bound together by their pasts.
Oh, I like it already.
So, he's going to be at the Lakes Festival this year. Obviously, he'll be doing signings, I would have thought, as well as doing panels, the usual malarkey that guests have to do. Mm-hmm. So that's absolutely superb. Again, first guest. This is the first guest of many.
Here you come.
As we're recording the Tuesday afterwards, so it depends on how quickly you listen to this episode, there will be more guests announced.
Yes.
So check out the website or downthetubes.net.
Yes.
If you want all the updates on that. So it's coming. It's coming. It's announcement time.
We're already in January and it's
coming. So it means we can start planning some guests.
Yay! Interview time.
Yes. So, brilliant news. Guest number 1 of many. Right. Now we can talk about some books.
Okay.
Do you want to do yours first?
I will do mine.
So, lovely Neil Brow.
We say lovely after we've just called him a comic whore. Not a whore. Oh my God, it's
He's
because I'm thinking of the Whore Chronicles.
Tony Esmond. That's
I've
what
just
you've
made
been
him even
called.
worse now. Oh, he's not going to
That's
sparkle his
staying in.
eyes at me. Again, is he? Oh, I've just seen the name for this and I'm not sure I can pronounce it.
Go on.
Anyway, so I've been reading the Stig and Tilde series. So I've got two.
I would have liked to have read, but we got them and you read them, and now we're going to review them. I've not even had a chance to look at them.
You haven't, have you? They're very good. You should try them.
I will be doing.
So this is by Max De Radigues. Oh, go on. You try.
Max De Radigues.
What was that?
Don't know.
Oh,
it's a lovely.
I always feel awful for not being able to pronounce things. Anyway, Stig and Tilde. So the first one's called Vanishes Island. I've obviously read 1 and 2. And I'll read the blurb, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So local tradition states that when a child turns 14, they have to survive all alone on an island for 1 year. I'm liking this idea because I've got a 14-year-old. Now it's time for Stig and Tilde to take up the challenge. When an accidental detour leaves them stranded on the wrong island, they find out there's more to their eerie surroundings than meets the eye. Ooh.
Before you start talking about the story, I do like, because this immediately makes me think Battle Royale.
Don't think
Games.
Battle Royale.
But I like when people are thrown into these situations. I know it's probably nothing like that, but
no.
But when especially teenagers who are not used to the world are thrown in these awful or good situations where they've got to deal with something that they would never imagine having to deal with. That's what I like.
Yes. Yeah.
And now you can explain why it's not like Battle Royale.
Nothing like Battle Royale. So they get sent off. They say goodbye to the mum and dad, and they're like, "Yeah, whatever," because they're 14 and they're sassy. And it used to be a long time ago, so everyone in this place goes away at 14 to an island. There's 200 odd islands, but over the years, it's just gone to one island where it's basically, as the girl says in it, a lame summer camp. So everyone just goes there, has a party, and then comes back after a year. Mm-hmm. But on the way, it starts raining. And
is it the Lake District?
Yeah, they're on Lake Windermere. No, it starts raining and Tilde doesn't want to steer the boat anymore, so she tells Stig he's got to do it. And he wanted to drive the boat, but not in the rain. Mm-hmm. So she goes under in the, what's it called when you go under the boaty bit? Into the
shelter.
It's not, is it? But anyway, she goes into the boat, and then a few minutes later, Stig comes under, and it's because he's decided to wedge it, the boat going in a certain direction. So it's following the compass, so they go to the right island, and of course then the door shuts and they get stuck there, and of course the boat doesn't end up where they think it's going to end up, and they end up at the storm. The boat, and it's terrible. There's a shipwreck and everything. So they end up on this other island. And it's not the party island at all. Okay. So and then they find the ruins of people that have done these year away before. So in this one, the first one, it's a bit spooky.
Okay.
It's a bit spooky.
So does the second one stick the same out, or does it sort of move?
The first one you meet you meet one person. I'm not going to go too much because I want to spoil it. Mm-hmm. So you meet one person and hear his story about why he's still there, would be a good way of putting that one. And in the second one, you meet the other person from the story from the first one on another island. I find out more about the story from the first one. I'm trying to do it without giving any spoilers. And also then there's a family element that suddenly comes in at the end of the second one. So I'm really excited to read the third one, just to see, because they seem to be going, so they've gone from one island and in the second book they go to another island to have a story there, but they all interlink.
As you'd expect them to do.
No, but it doesn't have to, does it? They could be a separate story for each island.
What's the art style like?
Oh, it's beautiful. I mean, I love No Brow's paper they use. They use a lovely paper. That's
interesting.
Sorry. You know you've got a No Brow book.
Does it smell good?
I don't sniff books. I'm not like you. There's something about their... Oh, it sounds sad, doesn't it? But I love the matte paper and the thickness of the paper they use. It's always a good quality item you hold in your hand. But the art style, it's very No Brow. You'd pick it up and go, that's a No Brow style book they'll choose. So it's...
Explain what you mean by No Brow style.
It's simple. It's slightly stylised. It goes
European-ish?
No.
And
it goes through. You can have like pages like this one where you haven't got many words on.
She's showing me page 44 and 45.
So there's a flow to a No Brow book, and I love the art styles or the artists they use and choose. So no, it's a brilliant book. Teenagers. onwards to read it. So yeah, I recommend it entirely, and I can't wait for book 3 to come out. Thank you, Toby. I'll have that one, thanks.
So Stig and Tilde.
Stig and Tilde.
Right. I'm talking about something completely different. Darryl Cunningham is back. He's just a working machine, this man. Every couple of years, he's got a massive graphic novel out. I know,
how does he do it? I've only got 15 pages and I've got more grey hair than I've had before.
The thing about Darryl is he goes into so much depth on whatever topic he's looking at. And this new book is looking at, well, it's called Billionaires, The Lives of the Rich and the Powerful, but it's picking individuals that perhaps people don't think about because we all think Steve Jobs.
Elon Musk.
Bill and Ted.
Paul Schofield.
So I'll give you the bump. Who are the super rich in our society? How did they acquire their wealth? And what are their lives like? Do you like my voice?
That's a terrible voice.
The super rich are often portrayed as self-made. But
he's not stopping.
Who?
You. With that voice.
In his latest graphic novel, celebrated cartoonist Darryl Cunningham examines the evidence featuring graphic biographies of media baron Rupert Murdoch, oil and gas tycoons Charles and David Koch, and Amazon founder just because I said, despite the growing inequality in the world, are such wealthy individuals necessary to finance progress? Would we be poorer without them? Is the world we want? Is this the world we want?
Wow.
I can't even read.
No. Or say the word cock without laughing. You child.
So this follows the 3 stories of these, well, I suppose it's 4 stories, but 3 stories of these individuals from the start, how they got the wealth, you know, and the story of they progress and become wealthy, essentially. And essentially it's almost what damage they do along the way for their self-preservation, for their self-needs, and that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. The most interesting one I found was Rupert Murdoch, just because I think I've always had an interest in media, and he's always sort of been...
He's a pantomime villain. Well, he was a villain, not even a pantomime villain.
Sort of been, there in the background of all our lives, but this certainly showed me how bad it really was with the political side of things. And I'll say it, I was, when I was a kid, a fan of Tony Blair. And there's a part in this story that makes me question Tony Blair, which is
just one part.
Well, it is. It's because, I won't go into it, but it's all about essentially how he worked with Tony to get him into the office by doing a deal that once he's in the office, then the media and acquisitions can go through and so on and so forth. And it's, well, these things go on, but I think when you support somebody, you don't expect them to be doing these deals. Plus, we're only...
Well, teenagers, weren't we?
17, 18.
We were still innocent of the corruption of the world.
The internet wasn't here to tell us all about it, that's why. 24-hour news. So it's done in his usual style. If you know Darryl's books, you know exactly it. But it gets the information across so well. And again, in a way that kids were more likely to, or teenagers, are more likely to read something like this, as well as adults, than a book that just goes in depth and,
because that could get stale, but, Darryl's books are very important, actually, as an educational tool.
They are, definitely. I certainly prefer this one to his last one. I think the content is more interesting to me.
Yeah, that's just a personal thing.
That is a personal thing. And if you're interested, if you like Darryl's work, obviously it's a no-buy. No, a must-buy, sorry. I said the two.
A no-brow.
I said no-buy, but I didn't mean no-buy. It's a must-buy.
A no-brainer.
A no-brainer, that's what I was thinking. But if you're interested in, let's say, the lives of the rich and the powerful and how they became about as well, then that's another reason.
Yeah.
Well worth reading. So, Billionaires by Mr. Darryl Cunningham. Maybe we had books again as well. Okay, right, let's let Pete take it away.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We've given him a lot of power here.
I know. It's not good. But we'll come back shortly to talk about a movie. We'll let you think on that.
Is that the vampire motorcycle one again?
No.
Mike's Mutterings.
Hello and welcome to the first Mike's Mutterings of 2020. Happy New Year to everyone. It was a welcome break Christmas this year, and comics were definitely the gift of choice between family and friends. Many months of inspecting each other's gift lists or bookcases trying to spot gaps and omissions paid off very well, and lots of comics and graphic novels were exchanged happily. I think most delight was always had when you carefully handpicked a title based on your view of a person's taste, and it was something that they'd never seen before. Unfortunately, I got to admit, I'm not an easy person to buy for. When I look for others, I kind of have the advantage of knowing he's the manga guy, it's got talking animals, so she'll love it, or it's Lovecraftian, so he's going to dig that no matter what. But my tastes are a bit more eclectic. I love the best of any genre, and slightest quirk or original take on an old cliché, and I'm kind of in love with it. But then, does that make me an easy person to buy for? After all, it's comics, so of course I'm going to appreciate it. I might not be into Korean vampire stuff right now, but I'm pretty sure that I'll have a fleeting obsession with it somewhere down the line. I just love gifting comics so much, and between comic-loving friends, it's just a perfect way of showing thought without a high price tag or taking up huge amounts of their room with unrecyclable consumer crap. I received some really surprising and treasured titles this year, which, believe me, I will go into further down the line, but there was one that I just couldn't help but share immediately, and that's the stunning Isola from Brendon Fletcher, Karl Kerschl, M. Sasuke, and Aditya Bidikar. Isola throws you straight into a mid-plot questing journey, following former Royal Guard Captain Rook as she escorts and protects a beautifully coloured tiger who is her transformed Queen of Mar, Olwyn. The tiger is confused and frustrated in her new state, but depends on Rook's devotion and loyalty to save her by journeying to the land of the dead, Isola. All this in an effort to reverse the spell cast upon her. There's an eerie post-apocalyptic sort of otherworldly feel to it. It's a great-looking world. It's an eastern, medievalish land of myth and magic. We understand early on that this quest for Isola is a huge undertaking. It's a trek across half a world, across many lands and kingdoms. The land of Mar, where it starts, is in the aftermath of a war, having been destroyed by the neighbouring kingdom of Hallam. And leaving means avoiding dangers such as the wandering hunting tribes, the forest spirits and the druidic morrow. Isola is the brainchild of Canadian friends Brendon Fletcher and Karl Kerschl. Friends of 30-odd years, the beginnings of Isola were actually worked on by them during their high school days. Brendon's the principal writer and has worked on titles such as 2015's Black Canary and the amazing Ghost in the Shell neural network for Kodansha Comics. He also wrote Gotham Academy with new friend of the festival Becky Clunham. Illustrated, of course, by his partner in crime, Karl Kerschl. Karl is a veteran too, having drawn Teen Titans and The Flash for DC. He's also an Eisner winner for his solo web series, The Abominable Charles Christopher. It's all about a mute yeti that's wandering a magical cedar valley, being unintentionally centre of epic events in a blustering Forrest Gump sort of way. I've not read all of it, so that might not be the principal takeaway, but what I've read so far, I love it, and it's got a great bittersweet tone to it. And Karl's Isola artwork is bolstered by outstanding colourist M. Sasuke, also known as Michele Assarasakorn, illustrator, colourist, and fellow Canadian. The general story of Isola is not particularly original or groundbreaking, and it wears its fantasy origins on its sleeve. Brendon and Karl have both cited Hayao Miyazaki's films as a huge influence to them, and you can see the Ghibli in Karl's artwork, and you can read the Miyazaki writing in the story that they've put together. It heavily and deliberately references Princess Mononoke in particular. It has shape-shifted people, travel through the lands of the forest spirits, and a setting in the Japanese Middle Age of Muromachi. Even the Moro folk share the name of the film's giant wolf god. The land is war-torn and just coming out of a war with the neighbouring Hallam kingdom after the rejection of marriage from their King Bastion, in a very Princess of Mars John Carterish kind of way. But these are all fine fantasy sources, because Isola still manages to make itself both unique and exceptional in many other ways. The story is littered with psychic flashes and dream sequences that add both future intrigue and fill in parts of the backstory. When they journey into the mystical forest realms and the waking dreams start, reality then begins to merge with it, giving a delicate fug to the unfolding story. The whole world build is very slow. There's always enough information to make sense of the place and time you're in, but the greater picture is drip-fed to you, tantalisingly so at times. I remember when I read and reviewed Monstrous, there was a similar sort of slow world build, but when you did get information, it came in a deluge of history, organisational structures and family trees, and Isola's a much simpler world, and still with the same amount of intrigue. The principal characters are carefully handled too. The initial impressions of fanatically protective soldier and characterless mute tiger shifts quite rapidly to fully fleshed out characters whose loyalty becomes devotion, becomes, well, stop there because there's no spoilers here, but the supporting characters are well crafted too. Great dialogue that give them distinct voices and quite satisfying motivations. And then we come to the artwork and the colouring. Frankly, it's mesmerising. Heavily Studio Ghibli influenced, it renders vast fantasy landscapes and claustrophobic interiors in such detail. Kerschl and M. Sasaki have a serious talent between them for natural textures and palettes. You even feel the cold and the misery of the raining scenes. The use of vivid colour interspersed with muted palettes really makes the move between places and times feel more distinct and real. There is a use of like a glyph-like language throughout. Not really explained, it's sort of symbolic katakana-like, and it gives a sense of language and history to the piece. If you find Isola in your local comic shop and you pick it up, I guarantee that you will be buying it unquestionably based on the artwork alone before you even read the back blurb. Another lovely touch I noticed, about halfway through actually, was the complete omission of English sound effects. Instead, it uses like a languageless manga-like phonetics, just symbolic representations of sound, like a scratchy tapping would be sharp scrawled vertical lines, and the spacing between those lines would be like the musical timing of them. It's really hard to explain on a podcast, but it's just really effective and it just suits the whole tone of it. There's just so many little things like that throughout that just catch my attention and just make it such a joyous experience. It's a great read, and I know that I'm going to want to keep rereading it, if only just to lose yourself in the artwork. Isola was published in 2018 by Image Comics. It's now available as a Volume 1 trade paperback, which collects issues 1 to 5. The single issue number 10 will be out in February, I think, so that's hotly followed by the collected Volume 2, which pulls together the remaining issues 6 to 10. Now, there was a 5-part prologue to Isola that was released in Motor Crush comic, but you can read this valuable introduction free online. Just go to isola.ca. It makes a really special gift, especially to yourself. One I cannot recommend enough. And we'll be watching Princess Mononoke tonight, because just talking about it has reminded me how awesome a film that is. Till next time.
Hi, I'm Nikki. If you like watercolour art, moving comics with relatable characters, then please check out my website, watercolourbynicole.com. We also have some very cute pin badges on there and take art commissions. Thank you.
How do? Welcome to Breakdowns, the comic art section of the podcast. I'm Pete Taylor. I'm a comics creator and illustrator. Online I trade as This Man, This Pete. Today I'm talking with two creators from the anthology book, The Whore Chronicles. It's Tony Esmond and Sarah Harris. Hi, both.
Yeah.
Hello.
You're right.
Yeah, good, thanks. You?
Good, man. Yeah, it's good to be here. Thank you for inviting us on. Yeah.
Right. The Whore Chronicles. That's a title you can't ignore, eh?
That almost became a point of contention between me and Sarah, didn't it?
Well, not almost. It did become a point of contention.
Yeah, it is a stopping tracks title, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know. It sort of goes part and parcel with the fact that I got a bit peeved with. It almost became trendy to say that you were a working, sex worker on your Twitter profile and stuff, and the sort of reality of it is a much rougher thing than a lot of people think it is. Just to say, and I had more people tell me not to call it that, and I had people who agreed. In fact, nobody agreed with me, Pete. To be fair, I ran it past a good friend of mine and Sarah's is Jason Wilson, who works under Jason Gunn. He did Surface Tension and he's done a few things. And he was saying, do not call it that. He kept telling me that. And I think that sort of just made me want to call it that more. But I don't know. I just had a moment where I thought it's got such a punch about it. It just sort of, and it's also, it sounds weirdly like some kind of fantasy title as well, Yeah. Like the Elk Chronicles or something. And I wanted it to have that sort of duality to it in a weird title.
It does jar. I mean, for the listener, it's on the back. It's described as true stories as told by the women themselves, and the cover is. I think Vince Hunt designed it.
Yeah, he designed it. Yeah,
it's got a VHS style cover with interviews conducted by, and then you've got yourselves, and there's the cast, the crew involved. Charles H. Raymond, Sarah Harris, Tom Curry, Rachel Ball, Rick Johnson with pin-ups by Stuart Mulrain.
Rick Jackson.
Rick Jackson.
Sorry, yeah.
I'm going to be reading that. Yeah. Stuart Mulrain and Vincent Hunt. So it's actually, it's an anthology book. So you've got comics in there, but you've also got a couple of prose stories, and they're all really revolve around interviews with sex workers.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea. Yeah. Did you want to just talk a little bit about the origin of it? Because it comes from Sarah, really.
Yeah, I was going to ask how it came about. Yeah, it's a really interesting concept.
Thank you. Well, it's very kind of you to say firstly, man, and appreciate it. And Sarah, Peggy, the story that Sarah wrote is about a character called Peggy who appeared in Cockney Kung Fu.
I didn't write it. I drew it.
You drew it.
You wrote it.
Sorry, I wrote it. Oh, yeah. And she's a character with like one line in the first issue of Cockney Kung Fu that me and Nick Prolix did in the Awesome Comics anthology.
Yeah.
And she's a fairly cliched 1970s street walking prostitute in the alley at the top of Rupert Street in Soho, which is historically where all the peep shows and porn cinemas were and all that sort of thing. It's right at the end of, if anyone knows who Raymond's Review Bar is. Yeah, it's just there. Steve Coogan did a great movie about Raymond from Raymond's Review Bar a few years ago, which I can't remember. I must have got a title, but it's just there. And Sarah asked me to write. You asked me to write you something, didn't you? Is that right, Sarah? Is that come out?
Yeah, pretty much. I kind of wanted to have a go and see if I could do this whole comic thing. I've now decided I can't, but we'll get to that later. But I asked if because you'd written a prose piece about Peggy, if I remember rightly, and it was really moving. Yeah, for your mailer that you used to do, and I decided then that Peggy was really important, really interesting. So I think I asked if you do just like a 3 or 4 page something that I could have a play around with.
Right.
Didn't really intend it to. Just for me, really, not to do anything with, and you obliged. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and then Sarah did so well with it that, and as the pages were coming in, I just sort of decided that it deserved. We just did it for fun, didn't we, Sarah? Was that the idea?
Yeah,
it's great.
And I decided that it needed to go out, but of course, what a 4-page story that became 5. Isn't enough for a magazine, so I approached some other creators to do sort of these little pieces to camera.
It's a brilliant concept, I have to say. It's interesting to hear how it came about. The fact that you, Sarah, kind of fell in love with the character from the prose story.
Yeah,
because what really comes through from the book is personality, really. I think from each of the characters involved, and obviously it came through and caught Sarah from the prose, and then when you add a layer of comics, you've got just a whole other sort of dimension. You've got body language, and you've got costume and lighting and such, and they all come across as being I think very different than they might if you just heard an audio, or you've got a different frame of reference from seeing it through I suppose another set of eyes in one sense. You've had a translation, haven't you, really, from the writer and the artist.
Yeah, I mean, I fell into that. So the sort of very quick background is I used to work in a job. I changed jobs and I work for No Brow. I don't have anything to do with prostitutes anymore, Mum. And I used to work in a job which I came into contact with these working girls, and I came into contact with them in a sort of non-threatening and in a sort of almost chaperone kind of way. Mm-hmm. And they're all different, and I got a bit peeved with TV movies and even sort of music videos displaying them as either sort of strippers, sort of these super sexy strippers, or as sort of heroin and crack-addled junkies, And the girls that I met were almost always very funny, almost always extremely sort of pragmatic, practical, and just living in the moment, a lot of them because of sort of dependencies and stuff. And after Sarah started her part, I thought, well, I was going to write. I'd had all these stories they told me that he always made me. Some of them were horrible, and some of them made me chuckle, and some of them, were just sort of just bizarre. And I'd occasionally tell friends about them, and anecdotally tell them. And so I started writing. For example, I think the first one I wrote was the guy who liked to be dressed as a baby. At the back of we've all done that, Pete. Do you know what I mean? That's the one I started with, and I started writing it as man goes into flat, asks to dress as, and I just thought, this just isn't working. It's just not coming across as real, And I really wanted it to be from the women's point of view. So I struck on this idea of doing it as a sort of fake interview show where the girls would tell, they'd been approached by a documentary team, which Stuart Mulrain very nicely illustrated the sort of reverse of the view later on in the comic.
Yes.
So we turned the camera around and see who had been interviewing the girls, which gave it that sort of 360 degree look of the room, and I'd that just sort of struck me as that, and it's also quite an easy way to write a script, to be fair, because it's always the same image. I don't have to keep describing what's happening in the background,
Yeah, you put them sort of like you put the focus on them, really, but you get it's perfect, really, and the artists that you've got have brought a lot to them as well. They've all got great individuality.
Yeah, so pleased. Absolutely over the moon with everyone. I think I asked 5 people and 4 people agreed. The other person was too busy, sadly, but I think he's making room for a possible volume 2.
Yeah.
But so I was really pleased, and from Rachel Ball, who's just brilliant, and there's been about I was reading in Deadline magazine in the 90s, and I love in The Inflatable Woman and Wolf and stuff, through to Tom Curry, who was kind of almost his first comics work. He'd done something, I think he'd done an anthology before that, but through Rick Jackson and Charles, and everyone sort of threw themselves into it. Nobody said to me, I don't want to do that. Even Sarah. Sarah did.
No, it is.
I said most things.
So how did the charity become involved beyond the streets? You've got,
they didn't. I just advertised for them, and
right.
I found them, and they I thought
that's perfect. Yeah.
I know they have had quite a few donations. I've heard back, so that's good. We suck it out for free. If you're on our Facebook group, it's free. Yeah, I think we got to that point.
Cool. Yeah.
I thought pull that stroke of sticking it out for free and see if anyone then buys it, and of course nobody then did. But I think we did the right thing.
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of those things. I think that if you actually pick it up, like I say, the title is jarring, but when you look inside, it's a completely different book, I think, perhaps than you might expect from the title. Yeah,
and it is, really mad. I don't shy away from that fact, and although it was it intended, I don't know, but I'm kind of owning that a little bit now. I like the fact that it's called that. We got a lady tut at it on I was at BAM on Saturday. A lady walked past and tutted, I kind of quite like that. You know?
Yeah.
Sarah taps at me often.
Yep.
Yeah, it's Britain. I think you're definitely going to get a few tots with that title, definitely.
But I have to say the real revelation was Sarah. I know she's sitting here, but the real revelation was Sarah, and I do keep saying it. And what she brought to that is the reason there's the comic out. You know, it's just incredible stuff. Plus, she decided my writing was rubbish and made it another page longer, didn't you, Sarah? Sounds good.
I just couldn't quite get it to work the way you'd scripted it, so I had to change it. It was my limitation, not yours.
Yeah, it's great. I've got a page for free.
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, I have to say, Sarah, that it was a standout experience for me going through your pages. I thought your page was wonderful. I mean, the choice of collage, it fits perfectly for the story. I mean, what made you choose collage? Is it is that something you work in a lot?
Yeah, I don't know that I work. I play. I think that's because that's how I came to doing anything arty at all, as I came from a more craft background, because I never used to be able to draw. I was going to say I didn't think I could draw. No, I was right. I couldn't draw. Yeah. No, I couldn't. No, I'm better at it now. Okay. But there's no raw talent there. It's years of trying, and you do get better the more you try. But at first I did collage because I couldn't draw what was in my head well enough. So I would collage it instead. And then I'd sort of get braver and I'd try drawing a bit, but I'd say collage like the background, and then try drawing just one focal piece, or just so I sort of over the years I've got braver with the drawing and the painting, but I still really like the textured look of having sort of collaged elements. So I don't think I'll ever lose that. I either collage or I sew. I do a lot of sewing and embroidering on with painting, because I just like to have that. I like to have a bit of texture. I don't like a completely flat painting. I find that
you sew on this a little bit. Wasn't the breeze?
There is some sewing on there. Yeah. Well, that is a cheesecloth that I dyed and then sort of ripped all the fibres apart. This is why it took me so long. I get carried away. And the quilt on the bed, that's all sewed. So I made like a little quilt for every, and then I realised how many blooming paddles that bed is in. And I had to make all these little quilts, and I'm like, why did I start?
Yes, because the headboard, right? Okay.
No, the sort of you see the sort of the goldy coloured bedspread. So that's all sewn, and even things that you can't see, once it's been scanned in and printed out, you can't really tell. All the music notes are collaged on and stuff, so they were all cut out of card, put on, and the heading I cut out from card with a craft knife and stuff, but you can't really tell that because it looks flat once it's on the paper. But I know what I did, so it's so I can't just sort of draw something and leave it alone. It's a compulsion.
That was one of the things I was going to ask you, actually, because everyone expects there to be some sort of photoshopping involved. I mean, and I that's why I was looking at the notes and I was looking at certain aspects. And one of the things I'd got down to ask you is, was it all literally stuck down? So, I mean, did you produce the full? So it's a full page, everything that's literally there.
There's nothing digital. I mean, the little typewritten notes I did on an actual typewriter on line paper, and then ripped them out and stuck them on. Yeah,
love that.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
And we had to sort of talk Vince into scanning it in, didn't we? Because we're worried what was going to fall off as we scan.
Oh, bless. So that had to be. Did it have to be posted, or was it? It was delivered before the scanning, was it?
I gave it to Vince at the last BAM, didn't I? So not the one that we just had a couple ago, but the one they had in the summer. I took them over to so because he needed, they're quite big, so it needed to be a sort of a decent sized scanner. I think he used the one at work. Hopefully won't get sacked if I say that.
Yeah.
No,
I thought there must be. Yeah, there must be. I didn't. It would be difficult to produce a collage like this at actual size for a comic. So I kind of thought that you might have moved. I imagined that you might have worked, much bigger. But I was trying to, work out if you did it panel by panel. But, obviously to do it as a full page, it works even better. I think it's fantastic. And in the biography,
she doesn't take compliments. Just so we're clear about this, she went quiet there. I let that breathe because she doesn't like to have compliments.
I know I feel a bit awkward because lots of people have been very, very nice about my story, and I just feel a bit awkward because I feel that I had a bit of an unfair advantage because I had the one that was a real, like a story, a more traditional comic story. So obviously, it had other characters
you had
in.
The easy job, Sarah. Yours was easy. Yeah.
No, it's easy, but what I'm saying is, I think it stands out because it moves around in different locations and it's very colourful and stuff. So I always feel a bit awkward because I think the other guy, I couldn't do what all the other guys did, which is like draw the same person in the same location over and over like that. I think they're geniuses, because in a way, I think I did have it easier than they did.
I see what you're saying, because you've got to have the same face with sometimes only. I mean, Rachel's story is a good example of that. There's only sort of slight facial tics, aren't there?
Exactly. Be really good at that sort of, getting a mood across with a facial expression and stuff, and that's so difficult. But while keeping it looking like the same person from panel to panel, it's not as easy as it looks.
So you just went for Ginger Corbyn, didn't you? Is that who you went for?
There is one panel where it does look a lot like Jeremy Corbyn. It is a bit, again, I was saying that to my son. I said, because the guy's called Lorenzo in the story, and I said, look at this page. I said, it goes Lorenzo, Jeremy Corbyn, Lorenzo.
Well, that was in case by this time he's Prime Minister, we might get a few quid out of that. You never know. Might get a few sales on that one, Sarah. Yeah.
Wasn't deliberate, but there you go.
And your biography says it's your first comic work as well. So
it is, yeah. I mean, as Tony said, I wanted to have a go, but not really. I didn't want it to be published or anything. I just wanted to try my own time to see if I could do it, and I found it horribly, horribly difficult. And I'm not in any rush to do it again.
Yeah. What was it you found?
What was it into it?
So, what was the chief difficulty you found doing the story?
Well, I think I thought it would be easy because I've been reading comics since I was 7, stop. I read a lot of comics. So I thought this sequential stuff, I must know how to do this because I've read so many. How difficult can it be? But it's really, really, really difficult. Tony wrote quite a detailed script. So it's not like he left all the work to me, but even with his script, actually working out, I don't know, angles and sort of how, when she's delivering this line. I think there was one where you said, she looks knackered at the end of the day, and I'm thinking, how will somebody stand to show that they're tired and stuff like that? I've never had to think about that before, and it's really difficult. And I found it, and because we were saying about how it started as a 4-page script and I ended up moving it to a 5-page script, I literally spent 3.5 months trying to get page 1 to work as it was written in the script, and screwing it up and throwing it in the bin, thumbnailing, and getting really frustrated with myself and really upset because I couldn't do it. And I just thought, I'm going to give up now. But because I'm really stubborn, I couldn't give up. So I had to keep going till it was finished, which took over a year.
But the good thing about that was we didn't have a deadline, though, did we? We just you were never under any pressure to get it done. It was
No, I was only under, internal
Sarah pressure is what we call it. Yeah.
But instead of not being able to do it, I mean, a lot of writers I know sort of put in their scripts sometimes, if you've got another way of doing it, feel free. So obviously, the fact you've just come up with a different solution in some ways, haven't you? Which probably has put a bit more impact on that first page. If you've reduced it.
Yeah, I don't think that I realised that I was allowed to do that, you see. So I was
I know.
very frustrated as it was written, thinking I should be able to do it. So as soon as I gave myself permission to just do it my way, it was much easier. Yeah.
And you paint in your own time as well, do you? Is it multimedia or is it a bit more traditional or?
Well, all the painting is acrylics, but I mean, I call this sort of mixed media really, because obviously I'm, sticking all sorts of other stuff on there as well. But all the paint is acrylics, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the typewriters. Sorry, man, go on. Sorry.
No, I was just wondering some of the collage elements ever make it outside of your comic work, or if it was just a choice that you made just for your comic work?
No. I mean, I collage on everything, and as we've said, I've not done any comic other than this, so everything.
Well, you say that, but you did a cover for Slice Quarterly, didn't you?
Cover.
I've not done any me.
Sequentials.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but no, I collage on almost everything I do. It looks finished to me if it's got texture.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's funny. I use a lot of textures. I sometimes just have to put something over the top of it, whether it's just a bit of parchment, make it look old, or something to dirty it up a little bit. Sometimes I tried to do a piece that was completely flat color the other day, and it was supposed to be a children's illustration, so I thought, it'll be nice and simple, but I had to put something over the top of it at the end just to sort of break it up a little bit, and just to make it,
you've got to satisfy your own eyes, because if it doesn't look finished to you, then I mean, maybe other people would like it 3 steps back, but you've got to do something that you want to see.
It's the old art of taking a photograph and looking at the photograph to see if it's finished. I think sometimes, you know, because when you're that close to it, you can never tell, can you? Yeah,
I do enjoy walking away as well and leaving it for as long as I can, whether it's a weekend or even just a night. When sometimes I leave it on my screen, and then when I come back to it first thing in the morning, you've got a much more immediate reaction to it than you have the day before. So it really can be a kind of like, oh no, I really don't like that, or it's like, okay, I'm happy to call that finished.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. So you mentioned that it's available. Did you say on the Facebook group? Is it?
Yeah. If you scroll far enough back on the Awesome Comics sort of chat Facebook group, I put it up. Just there was a little bit of a chat about it, and I didn't want anyone getting it. Well, everyone's got the wrong idea about me, Pete, to be fair. But if I didn't want everyone getting the wrong idea about the other collaborators, and I put it up there. Only this for sale, and you can buy it digitally still. We've still got a few copies. We're selling it at BAM. Rachel Ball was selling it at Catford Zine Fair, because you dropped some off, didn't you, Sarah? With her. She was selling it there. So, and it was in. I don't know whether I might put it. I was going to put it in Orbital, but I don't suppose that's going to happen now. But
right.
It's
it's out and about.
Yeah, it's out there. If you want it, it's out there. It's easy to find. I'll probably put it on Comic House at some point, maybe over Christmas or something like that.
Yeah.
Recoup all the millions that I gave to Sarah for her pages. I think I paid her in books.
Well, actually, while we're on the subject of books, and we are coming to the end of the year, I thought while I had you both on the episode, I'd ask you what your books of the year were. What were your favourite books of this year?
It's a hard one. I'm writing the list out now for the Awesome Comics pod, and I'm having real trouble. Now this may change by the time we record it next week. But I've got one. What about you, Sarah? Go on, you go first, because I know
that's a difficult question, I haven't. Gareth Hopkins' Petrichor is amazing.
Yeah.
That's definitely near the top of my list. He seems to have, I don't know, hit the sort of the perfect mix now of the abstraction and the sort of like, just enough of a story that it's not completely abstract, but sort of not enough that it just spoon feeds you. And, with very little words, really, he was able to, reduce me to tears. That's clever going. Oh God, I don't know. I've read so much. Don't make me narrow it.
I know, it's a terrible question. It's one of those, because you also feel bad for the ones you read at the beginning of the year as well.
Exactly.
My memory is terrible as well. I have to go back through the show notes and everything to see what I actually read. I'm going to say I'm flip-flopping between two. I'm flip-flopping between Andromeda, which is a book I bought at Thought Bubble by a guy called Zeb Bernay. You got a copy, didn't you, Pete?
I got there too late to get the book on the weekend.
Right.
But I did order it online.
Nice.
So I have got a copy. Unfortunately, I swapped my book for his to get just one of the single issue ones.
Yeah. Okay.
But I knew I wanted the hardback. So I ordered that online, but unfortunately it's been confiscated as a Christmas present. So I still haven't read
right.
the
I was
full.
going to say, I thought you were going to say at customs. I was going to say,
Yeah, no. No, even worse, just inside the house. Yeah, it's like, oh, right, there you go. I've not got enough for you, so boom, that was gone. But yes, it's a gorgeous book, isn't it?
Yeah, really gorgeous. I was really impressed with that. If you're into Jodorowsky, you'll love it. I think it's got that thing about it, that weird sort of proto pseudo Jesus thing going on. It's with a lot of sort of hippie mythology, and yeah, it's always right up my street. And the other one is a book that absolutely just blew my socks off at the start of the year. Which I do work for this company now, but at the time I wasn't contracted by them, and it got given to me to see what I thought about. Is it something you think people will buy? And I did immediately. I read it in a train journey. That's In Waves by A.J. Dungo from No Brow, and it's just the most incredible thing I've read for a long time. It's just the most touching autobiographical story I think you've probably ever read, with just some amazing visuals. You've read it, Sarah, have you? I can't remember.
Oh God, yeah. Also made me cry. I don't cry at everything, honestly. But yeah.
I've got a bit of a reputation for that myself, to be honest.
Oh, she's a weeper.
Oh, brilliant. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on.
No, thanks for having us, man. I really appreciate the support you give in the book. It's not, we're never going to make a lot of money on it. It's just something we put out for fun, and something me and Sarah just did to exercise our art muscle, I suppose. And it's been nice that people have been nice about it. I'm glad we got a good reception, because we're worried about the reception. People sort of jump to conclusions, don't they? But yeah, thanks for being so kind about it. And thanks, man.
Finding the story behind it actually has made me, like it even more. The fact that it sprang from, a prose story and a need to explore a character further, and then just being first comics work. I think I think it's brilliant.
We're planning a sequel. We got a sequel. Sarah's promised she'll do your 2-page story. Was it 4-page story you promised, Sarah?
Said 1 page. 1 page, you said.
That's right. You've heard it here. Agreed to 4 pages.
But good trick. You just have to write a really, really difficult 1-page script, and I'll split it over 3.
And the idea is we're going to pursue the men. We're going to see what happens to the men who do this.
Okay.
Pursuing men. This will be fun.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, because one of the pro stories is from
about
the
a punter.
One of the punters. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So it's the punters. There's Rachel Ball's agreed to come back, so there's a chance that story she did will continue, but maybe from someone else's point of view. So we'll see. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks, man.
Right. Well, I'll have to get you back on when the issue 2 comes out.
Yeah. Sounds good.
So, how can people find you online? What are your socials?
Sarah, go on, you go first. Ladies first.
I am at implausible17 on Twitter, and that's about it, really. I've got an Instagram, but I never use it, so there's no point giving anybody that. And I'm on Facebook stuff. There you go.
I'm on the Awesome Comics Pod, which I'm sure everyone can find. I'm on neverunanything.blogspot.com or neverunanything.bigcartel.com if you want to get a copy of it, and a couple of other books that I've done in the past as well. They're on there.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for coming on, and we'll chat again when issue 2 comes out.
Thanks,
cheers.
Pete. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. You can follow me at ThisManThisPete on Instagram and Twitter, and buy my comic, The 7 Sagas of Silverbeard, at silverbeard.co.uk.
Hello all you fine folks, and welcome to 2020. Happy New Year. This is Small Pressed with Tom Stewart of That Comic Smell podcast on the fantastic Lakes International Comic Art Festival podcast. I hope you've all had a great New Year. Hope you all got a lot of comics for Christmas. Now, I am here to start off the year with an absolute cracker of a comic. It is 44 pages, colour, A5, and it's only £3. I'm talking about the newest instalment that will be launching February 1st at True Believers in Cheltenham. That is The King by John Tucker. I spoke about John's work before with Hello Dolly, but John is what you need as a total obscure palette cleanser. It's like the best delve into what comics can actually do. He really takes the medium itself and shows everybody what you could be doing with it and more. Now, I can't really, as you can tell, go into much detail because John really pulls a story out of the bag and gives you something that really needs to be seen to be taken in properly. So me sitting here chatting about stuff that goes on in the book isn't going to do it any good. So I'm not going to explain any of the story really at all. All you need to know about it is that it's a story about family, loss. There's a lot of emotion within it, and there is an egg. That is as much as you're going to hear really on the actual content of the story. A family has a loss. A sister loses a sister. A sister then receives an egg in the post, and from there the story takes shape. What's striking about John's book off the first bat is the colour. It's an absolutely beautiful kind of like an egg yolk yellow, because it's like a nice yellow orangey mix, almost gold you would say. And that cover is just so striking, just a crown with sort of shock marks coming off of it. And John Tucker the King. It's so simple. John has a great simplistic style about him that I absolutely adore. I love when people have the ability to draw something and make it look so effortless, and yet you know that a heck of a lot of time and effort went into it. You might play that down and end up saying, no, I didn't put any effort into it, but you can tell it really, really did. This is less a traditional comic per se. This is more a sort of illustrated book. So there's writing and then there's illustrations throughout it. Now, the other handy thing about him using this kind of golden colour, he can then use that colour throughout the book for the family and hair colour and clothing, etc., if he wanted to, and sunlight, and it just works really, really well. He's got this great way of drawing like sort of out of the way country bits. That definitely comes from him being Wales bound and down by sort of seaside towns and whatnot. He's always got a good way of showing like just wisps of grass blowing, or just to give you the effect that it's, you know, a windy seaside part. But the visuals in this are just unbelievable. This is some of the drawings in this, I think, are some of the best that John has ever done. I'm a massive, massive fan of his one-page A3 comic Sido, and I think that was some of the best drawing that he's ever done. But this is just another level entirely. The shading that goes into it, the detail that he picks up on a lot of the things in that as well is just unbelievable. There's little small details that he puts into it as well. I was listening back to the creator's commentary for it, because if you pre-order this book before it launches at True Believers, you get privy to a creator's commentary on the book, and John takes you through the book from start to finish. And he explained at one point that there is like a gas man's computer, and it's like one of these chunky computers. And it's funny because it's one of the first things that I spotted and thought, God, yeah, they always do have those big, like, really chunky laptop things when they're out working. And he's got like a delivery guy at the start who's got like a big, one of the little sort of pocket things for like sign this, I think. It's just little things that he puts in there. And speaking of the little things that he puts in there, he also litters throughout it like little bits from his previous work. You can just spot them and no more. He'll maybe put something on a mug or something on a t-shirt or something in a picture or something like that, and it's so fleeting, but you'll catch it. He's got a great way of writing it as well, so you get a really good sense of character just from the writing, because there's no speech bubbles to tie it to the characters within the story. It's just the person sort of telling the story in the third person, which John has done in a lot of his previous work, but he's done it in such a way that you get a sense of who the person is, where they come from, their age, their kind of upbringing and stuff, like just by the way he's written it, like the way they're talking. It's It's utterly unbelievable. Great story, beautiful visuals, solid work all round. Even down to the font that he uses. It's almost like those old sort of kids illustrated books, like your Tiger Who Came to Tea and all that kind of stuff. An amazing book. You do not want to miss out on this at all. The King by John Tucker. As I say, it's releasing at True Believers Comic Con at Cheltenham on February 1st. And you will be able to get it for £3. £3! 44 pages in colour at £3. Unbelievable. If you nip across to John's Twitter page at John Tucker Art, he's done a video that goes along with it to tell you what you get for the book. And like I say, if you pre-order it just now as well, you're getting a free creator's commentary will come to you at the time of launch. As he says in his tweet, he says, pre-orders of my new book, The King, include a free code for creator's commentary MP3. I'll tell you everything, the symbolism, how I wrote the jokes, the works, but it's pre-order only. So nip across to johntucker.bigcartel.com to order your one today. Definitely worth a look. Now, just before I go today, I also want to tell you about a Kickstarter that's going on at the minute for Alan Henderson's Penguin series. It's Penguin Presents Vision. It's an all-new 2020 collection. It's a 100-page book with 180 of the comic strips featuring puns and dad jokes you've come to expect. But if you nip across to a Kickstarter and look for the Penguin Vision, it's already smashed its goal, but it's definitely worth getting a copy of that. And speaking of Kickstarters, if you've got a Kickstarter that you would like to have shouted out and have people have a look at, or if you've got a comic that you want people to have a look at, whether it be on Comixology or Comic House, or you've got it up on a store somewhere, or you're going to be at a con or something, just let me know. I'm more than happy to shout it out and let people know that you're going to be putting out your work. I want more people in 2020 to get their work out there. I want more people to be focused on new creators and more comics for 2020. But yeah, get in touch. Give me a shout across at Twitter at URAMYX, Uramix, or across at That Comic Smell on Twitter and Instagram. And that's it from Small Press. I will see you later. Thanks again.
And we're back, so let's talk movies, or a
Okay.
particular movie. One that you were looking forward to watching.
I was really looking forward to watching
Even though reviews had said.
though it was bad.
So we're talking about Hellboy,
Yes.
which came onto Netflix, wasn't it? Which
Yes.
was odd.
Mm-hmm.
So what were your impressions? Why were you looking forward to it, other than David Harbour?
I love him. Mainly because it had David Harbour and old man crush Ian McShane in. I think you'll find.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I love Hellboy because it's always out there, isn't it? It's in your face. I was hoping for a good R-rated, Deadpool-esque. I wanted it to be what it should be.
Now, before we talk about the movie, do you feel Deadpool has caused issues in the sense that now people think, oh, well, let's make it a bit naughty?
Which I think is what happened with Hellboy. I think they just inserted stuff to make it
Went
that
over
rating.
the top when
Yeah.
it didn't need to.
Yeah, it felt forced.
Because what was the original Del Toro's movies were 12s, I
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, and they were much better.
Well, yes, but that's Del Toro. He's an amazing director, full stop.
Yeah. I wanted this to work because Hellboy is such a great character. The world is such a great world. You know, it should be brilliant. I was so frustrated.
So what didn't you like about it? We're going to go into spoilers here, by the way. It's been out enough time
it's
now.
been out for ages.
So if you don't want to, if you haven't seen it and you're actually interested,
Skip ahead 10 minutes.
Don't bother being interested.
Yeah, watch it on Netflix if you've got a Netflix subscription, so you don't have to rent it.
So go on.
What didn't I like about it?
Yeah.
So much.
So let's just start with the story.
I love that.
the
What
King
did you hate
Arthur.
about it? And then I'll just talk over you, Nikki. That's fine.
I was going to step by step. The whole King Arthur thing.
Oh, God. Yeah. That was stupid, wasn't it? Why did Merlin bring the sword to him anyway when he could just fell through the floor and found it? I mean, that was just like, oh, for God's sake. What did it? Does it need that? Does it need that ever? Do we? No. You?
David Harbour's portrayal of Hellboy, was that? It didn't excite me in any way.
He couldn't move his face, could he? Bless him. There was no expression there.
And again, unfortunately, we're comparing this to Ron Perlman.
I'm going to compare it to Ron Perlman because we're comparing a movie to a movie, basically. We can't...
And I know the look they went for was much more like the comic.
Yeah.
Not that, you know...
Yes, they went more like the comic, which is fine.
But there was no issue with Perlman's look, to be fair. It wasn't... No one was stood there saying, "Oh, it doesn't look anything like him."
Well, no one said, "Who's that?"
No. But yeah, I don't know. It's something about his face.
He couldn't move it.
It annoyed me.
He couldn't move it. Mm-hmm. That was it. It was so much prosthetics on there, or rubber face, or whatever he had on, that it was. He couldn't move his mouth properly. It was awful. Yep. Next.
Special Agent Ben Damio.
Is that the werecat guy?
Yeah. It just felt pointless. He never actually did anything of any use.
His backstory was quite, no.
You just saw him.
He was just to make a character of 3, isn't it? It was just to make up the group.
Which is fine if he was doing something, but...
Yeah, well, did you notice when they changed him at the end, he was just ever in flying shots because obviously they didn't have the CG capability to do it properly.
It was pointless.
Yeah.
You've got a character there that can turn into this brilliant beast, and he just didn't utilise it in any way, shape or form.
No.
Certainly didn't excite me.
No. And what was he injecting himself with to stop him from changing?
I think it was mushroom soup.
Oh. Well, maybe tuna.
Mushroom soup.
Whiskers.
Milia Jovovich. I can never say her name. How was she?
I love her. Mm-hmm. But I love her in Fifth Element. And the first Resident Evil. She's a fantastic actress, but I feel that they always cast her badly or give her the wrong... She was not strong enough. I mean, she's beautiful. But the script didn't bring anything out of her. It wasn't humorous, because it tried to be humorous a few times, but it wasn't sinister either. It just fell flat in the middle.
And then they bring in... And it's a bit I like, actually. The witch, Baba Yaga. I thought that scene at house, and that scene, she was good.
Oh, that was freaky. That was good CG on that.
I felt she was a good character.
Yeah.
However, it wasn't needed.
No.
It didn't add anything to the story as much as I liked.
It didn't add anything because there was no consequence.
It felt like that was a character brought in to continue, to bring up the universe and to then continue and expand and create sequels. If they do another one to bring in the consequence of him and the deal they made... Which obviously they were planning a sequel, whether one happens or not is another thing.
So that's the only thing that you can take from that if they ever did another one was that deal. But yeah, anything on chicken legs is going to be awesome. And that goes back to the original source material from folklore. So that was all fine. And like I say, she was creepy.
Yeah.
So I don't know why she was eating by kids' hands.
I think it just left a very bland taste in her mouth at the end of it all.
Well, you got Thingy as well. You're forgetting a character.
The girl.
Alice.
Yeah.
I quite liked.
Well, she was fine.
Yeah. But that whole graphics of the things, I mean, especially Ian McShane one, when he came back as a ghosty thing, that was horrendous.
It was.
And the giants.
The giants, this is what annoys me, the giants actually looked fine when they're on their own. It's just when they were mixed with the fighting and the live action that it just stood out. And
it drags you out of the story then.
They probably need another $1 million to smooth the animation, essentially.
Yeah.
But the giants themselves, I thought, when they were on their own, looked absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just pulls you out of the whole effect.
Yeah.
And what happens? Here we go. The monsters attack at the end.
Oh yeah,
and then they all disappear.
And they all suck back in.
And then everything goes back to normal.
Why? Those people that got stabbed by that monster's leg aren't going back to normal.
Why does it seal it? That wouldn't happen.
No.
They'd just disappear and everything would be a mess.
Yeah. And there'd be blood and guts everywhere.
I don't understand that. That makes no... That's like, oh, well, we can pretend it didn't happen now for the sequel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a frustrating
it missed
film.
Yes. It could have been so good. Mm-hmm. I wished it was so good. Because, like I say, it's a franchise that could happen.
Well, they tried to set it up with the end of it.
God. How did they try and set up at the end of it?
Abe Sapiens there.
That's it, Abe.
Which Yeah, fine. It's good that they didn't bring him in the film, I'll be honest, because they'd used that character.
Yeah, so they're bringing. Yeah, I'm quite up for a new team. But
yeah, it's a bit meh.
Yeah,
very meh.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I think this is the fault of Deadpool. I really do feel this film and its failure is Deadpool's fault.
Really?
Yes. I do. I really do. I think they're trying to become
Deadpool. Edgy, yeah. Well, see, that only really worked with the first Deadpool. But I mean, I know people love the second one. I didn't.
But
as
it's
much.
also Ryan Reynolds that makes that work. It's his character and his portrayal is just amazing.
Yeah. The writing was good.
That's what makes that work.
Yeah, it's a good fit. And I don't think they found a good fit for... Pika, come on, love.
So, while we're talking about mediocre movies...
Yes.
The new trailer for the new Spider-Man spin-off has hit.
I haven't seen it.
Yes, you have.
Oh, was that good, was it? Oh, God.
Morbius.
Oh, that.
Yes. So this is Jared Leto playing the vampire. Essentially, is what he basically is. So
vampire.
my
vampire impression.
This is a Sony movie, not a Marvel movie.
And there lies the problem.
And it does. Marvel's got a feel about their movies. They've got a comedic, light-hearted, lovely feel. Even the darker stories have still got that bit of comedy, that comic feel, I suppose, if you want to put it that way. Sony's movies, okay, the original Spider-Mans were fun, but they still missed it a little bit. The second lot of Spider-Mans were rubbish. Venom didn't hit the mark apart from Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy's acting ability and came through and saved that film, I feel.
They did try and get the comedy in, but like you say, it's
not quite
slightly forced still. Yeah.
This just feels like we're going back to the 90s.
Yeah.
In movie making.
Let's go back to dark.
It just
and naff.
Unfortunately, I feel there's only one character that suits a dark. That's done out of your out of your standard comic characters. There's plenty of other comic characters in the background, but your standard Marvel DC Batman is the only one that truly that can be done in a serious way. I feel, and
it can be more dark and gritty. But...
And when they want to, I'm assuming they want to link this in with Spider-Man at some point.
Oh, they're going to have to chirp it up a bit, aren't they?
And also, it's Morbius. I mean, I don't know the comics, but certainly from what I know, he's a bad guy at the end of the day. And I may be wrong there, and please tell me if I am.
They will tell you if you're wrong.
It just feels, I don't know, is it needed?
No.
It feels like a cash. I don't know. That's what it is, but I think there's ways of doing these movies without that. They do tease the Vulture at the end of it, Michael Keaton.
Yes, they did, yeah.
Is that a Sinister Six possibility, which could be interesting?
That might be better.
But you need Spider-Man in these films.
Yes. Well, they found that out with Suicide Squad. I mean, I know it's a different company altogether, but if you're bringing in a lot, then you need that balance. You
need, something interesting to go with it. And Venom kind of works because he is an anti-hero now, which he never used to be.
Because he can be good or bad depending on who he goes for.
A hero himself, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm not impressed.
No. I was obviously that impressed I'd forgotten I'd seen it.
We'll see.
That could be my age, though.
Hopefully we'll have a review of Joker soon, because that's coming on TV. We missed it at the cinemas.
We did. There was so many we missed at the cinemas.
Well, it's hard work, walking 20 minutes to the cinema.
God.
First world problems.
Life's so hard.
Finally, let's talk about a series which we're going to cheat because it has been made into a comic, but it's not obviously based on a comic. The Witcher.
Loved it. But you said I'm like a grade C Witcher nerd.
You are.
Yeah.
Well, you can't decide to read the books after watching the TV programme.
And playing the game.
Yes.
Okay.
Your books should always be first.
I know, and I agree. Okay, but I decided this time to do it backwards. No. I've read some of the comics.
Can I make
Bring
a point? You wouldn't have even read the books if I hadn't bought you them.
No, I would have done.
Eventually.
Yeah. But you bought me them for Christmas, so that's fine.
So, do you feel the TV series is rubbish? It's successfully recreates what you want.
Yes.
From
yes. Yes.
I'm not going to do any spoilers, but do you not feel it jumps around a bit too much? Maybe doesn't explain it clearly.
If you're
enough.
going in there cold and you know nothing of the Witcher world, then bloody hell, you're going to get confused. If you go in there knowing the Witcher world, you're going to know characters, and therefore you can make the links better.
So I'm going to say, this isn't a spoiler. If you haven't seen it, there's nothing to hide. The timelines jump around. And if you know that from the start, you can probably start getting your head clear into the storyline and what's going on.
I told like my mum when I told her to watch it. She's never going to get it. But yeah, I told her to look at people's length of their hair, because their hair grows longer and their faces don't age. I
think they were trying to do it as a surprise.
No, they left clues, whole thing.
Yeah, but I feel they were building it so that you did realise halfway through, but it just didn't work.
I realised on the
second or third episode, wasn't it?
That what was happening properly. But yeah, if you realise that we're talking, 30 years coming together, and the facts that the witches and sorceresses do not age at all, then their hair grows a bit longer. And then you're able to figure it out better. But yeah, it all conjoins at the end.
It does. And I've got high hopes for season 2 that they won't necessarily.
Well, they've got to go into the wild hunt now, I reckon.
I just think they'll be a bit more. I think they'll be a bit more clear though with that timeline, and I think they'll make it easier to understand what's going on and where you are.
Yeah, I think that's probably the only problem.
That is the only
like I said,
issue.
If you're going in cold and you don't know characters,
it's just a bit confusing at times. But wonderful series.
It's fantastic. Henry Cavill nails The Witcher perfectly.
Which you were so against.
Yeah. I was so against him because I hate him in Superman. And I hate Superman anyway, but controversial. But I hated him in that, and I thought he's going to ruin it. And then he utters his first word. I'm like, yeah, you got it.
And you didn't realise he was British.
No, I did come from Jersey.
So there you go.
And has 4 brothers. Come on, girls, let's go get them.
We've got Ninu Kuni animation to watch. Now, has that been done? Originally, that was written by Ghibli, wasn't it, for the game?
Oh, you want some info now, do you?
Am I right in that? It was,
yes.
Ghibli had involvement with that original game.
Yes, they drew it.
But they've got no involvement in this.
Well, you say that, but lead animator on that is an ex-Studio Ghibli.
So he's an ex, right, okay.
Animator who did Spirited Away. So they've got a good lead animator. And Joe Hayashi does the music for it, and he does a lot of Ghibli music. And he is my favourite. If you want to chill out, listen to Sixth Station by Joe Hayashi. And it's amazing.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you very much.
So we'll listen to that. We'll watch that.
Yeah.
Titans season 2. We'll push through that. I believe it's not meant to be very good.
Oh, don't make me watch it. It's supposed to be awful. And I got bored with it by the end of the first series.
Am I going to watch it on my own?
Yes.
The Big Flash.
Big Flash?
Series,
is that what it's called now?
Big Flash series crossovers happened and should be on UK TV soon. I'll be watching that as well. Looking forward to that. With the guest character that's jumped on that everybody knows about now.
Yes, you saw a spoiler, didn't you?
Well, it's not everybody knows. CW have pushed it out there.
Oh, well.
So it's not a secret.
That's not fair, is it, for us lot who don't get it?
No, I'd like to have been like, oh, it's him. Although, to be fair, I'm far more interested in not Adam West. Who was in it?
I was going to say Adam West dead.
Yes, no. The guy who voices Batman in the cartoon. And
Mark Hamill?
No, he's a Joker.
I know. I'm just teasing you now.
I've forgotten his name now. I'm more interested in him being in it than him from the movies.
Yeah.
That's me trying not to spoil what everyone knows. So
Mark Hamill really is it?
Yes. So, okay. So, can we just say about My Neighbour? We've done another episode on that as well. So if you like Ghibli, listen to us gibbling on. Do you like that?
Oh,
gibbling
that was
on about.
Awful. Pompoko this time.
And I think we'll probably do a Ni no Kuni, one of those maybe. Because it's kind of Ghibli-ish.
Yeah.
So have a listen to that if you're interested. Search My Neighbour.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you all.
We'll be back at the end of the month on time this time.
Well, we'll see now, won't we?
Thank you very much for listening.
Yes, thank you.
Over and out. Bye.
Over and out.
Bye. Just say bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening. Find out more about the festival at comicartfestival.com. Find out more about the show and how to contact us at comicartpodcast.uk. Find us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Music composed by Pop Noir.
This podcast is part of Britpod Scene, an independent network of uniquely British podcasts that's always growing. Check out BritpodScene.com or Britpod Scene on Twitter to find out more.